You know it to be true. Some art journal pages don't happen easily, but that's okay because in today's tutorial, you can learn from my mistakes. So I was feeling like I wanted to create, but didn't know what to create. So I went to my pick a prompt cards. This is 100 cards. This is available as a digital download from Ninny's Napkins. If you're interested, you can check it out. So I'm just flipping through some of these cards, just trying to get an idea to force me into creating. I don't want to have to make decisions. I want some decisions to be made for me. And that's a good use of the prompt card. So I deal out four, and then one by one, I identify the one that I'm going to do. So when it's difficult to create, using the prompt cards points you in the directions. It's starting. Also, keep it simple. Don't overthink this process. If you get an idea, go with it. Don't look for all the possibilities, all the um, here I've written down a couple ideas. Rip a strip, which is using collage papers to break a page. And then there was a technique where you take book paper, dictionary paper, you glue it down, and then you rip it off, and it gets this organic feel. I've always wanted to try that technique. So here I am experimenting with it. It fits my ripped category. I'm not going any deeper. I want to break through this creative block that I'm in where everything is facing, causing me challenges and difficulties. I'm overthinking. So, with this technique, from what I've seen people doing, they just glue it down with a glue stick, let it dry, and then rip off any of the loose bits. And this gives a more organic, ripped effect than just ripping the pages like I've done here. Now, I've let it dry and I'm ripping this off. Now, I'm going to be honest. I don't know that I've done this correctly. I'm thinking maybe I should have just kept them as rectangular shapes and then ripped them and then they'd be more organic. I have mixed emotions about whether this is a win or this is a loss. It kind of sort of worked. I really don't benefit from this layer of dictionary paper on here. I will have to experiment with this technique again. If you've done this technique and there are some ins and outs that you know that you're not seeing me doing here, please, please, please leave that comment in the leave me a comment in the comment section. Here I've ripped off way too much, so I actually end up, I think, gluing it back down. But, I'm not overthinking this because when the creating goes hard, when it's difficult, you just want to keep moving yourself forward. I've given up the idea in the back of my head that I'm going to create great art here. I just want to create. So I've grabbed my plastic folder of bits of collage papers and I grabbed the teal one. I'm drawn to this one with these navy blue circles on it. I experiment with a few others. Nothing's really keeping my fancy. I'm going digging for more of that same paper. And luckily, I did find it. Now, the benefit of the Rip a Strip is you get these organic pieces in there. You are breaking the page. It will direct to some degree your color scheme, patterns, if there's patterns in the collage papers that you put down. So again, one less decision that you have to make. Now, this rip a strip technique, I used to do it a lot to break a lot of pages to start. And it's just not something that I've done recently. So I'm kind of revisiting an old friend. Now, I really like that dark blue that was on that teal collage paper. So I grabbed my blue envelope. of bits, and I found this colored coffee filter with the blue, and I'm just ripping some of that. And I'm really liking the color combo here. I like the white space. I like even the book bits of book paper that are shining through. Happy with it. And I really haven't had to make too many decisions. I haven't had to think hard about what I'm doing. I'm just layering it up. I know that there are going to be lots of layers, and I'm just putting one foot in front of the other. Now, I like blue and green together. What's different about this page is both of these blues, they're phthalo blue and phthalo green. So they're a little bit brighter. They're just a little bit different shade than what I normally use. So again, I'm experimenting. As you can see, I'm working in this composition book. It's a Dollar Tree, dollar store composition book that I've dedicated to do my prompts in. So it's kind of an experimental place to go. No risk. It's a cheapy book. I want to add some texture, and I grab this stencil, hole punch from the Crafter's Workshop, and I'm just putting some of the TCW modeling paste through the stencil. Now, here's where I'm making a mistake. I should not be doing texture right now because I'm going to be doing stamping. And the stamping is just going to be made all the more difficult because now I have texture to work around and it's interfering. It doesn't make it impossible. It just is going to give a slightly different effect. So I would continue to do this, but I would do this later after I've done some of the stamping. And here's where you get to learn from my mistakes. So put your ripped paper down, then do some stamping. Just change the order, and that will change everything and make things easier for you. I'm loving this hole punch stencil. It's a nice, generic, all purpose, small scale edition. Now, I wanted to add some black for contrast. And so I have this number stamp from, I think it's the Create Happiness Stamperia set. And I'm brayering on black acrylic paint, and then I'm stamping. So right here, I'm stamping on top of the texture. My page is rough, so you can still stamp, but you got to know that you're going to get less than perfect stamps. Now, the purpose of my stamping is to get some background grunge there, add some contrast. So it's not like it's a fail. But again, I would just do the stamping before, or at least some of the stamping that I do before I put on the texture paste, just to make it easy. I am liking the black contrast, but to be honest, at this point in my point, I'm thinking to myself, there's certain things I like, but I'm not really in love with the background. But again, this is my mindset going in. I have been struggling creatively with this. So now I'm grabbing some gesso and I'm going to get rid of some of the composition paper. That was just raw paper. It hadn't been gessoed. And I'm just going to soften some of the edges. This is knocking back some of that stamping. If you've stamped something and it made a mess, you can cover it up with the gesso right here. It gives that cloudy, ethereal kind of look to this that I really like. It's kind of the magic of gesso. So all the steps that I'm doing here are basic art journaling steps. Layering, stenciling, stamping, adding gesso to knock back. And this is just kind of melding all these elements a little bit more. Now I'm grabbed my phthalo green and then I grab my phthalo blue and I'm just adding a little bit more color. Again, I'm working with what I had, the color scheme that my collage papers from Rip-a-Strip technique gave me. And I'm just adding a little bit more color. And I'm just doing it instinctually. I don't have a plan. I don't know where this page is going. I don't have any idea or preconceived notion about focal image here. I'm just going to have fun adding layers, making an interesting background, forcing myself to create in hopes of, again, getting through that block. So I'm just adding some color where there was no color, combining and joining some of the collage papers. So we've got mixed media, we've got collage papers, we've got modeling paste, we've got book paper, we've got paint. Everything is adding to it. Now, here, since I like the little bits of book paper, I thought I want more of that color. So wherever it's white, I'm adding this unbleached titanium. But as I'm doing this, I got to be honest, I was regretting it. While I like that little bits of book paper, this just seemed to blah it. So I grab another stamp and I thought, okay, let's just add another layer. I don't know what I want to do. I'm not happy. And I'm leaving this in and I'm showing you my mistakes because it's a process we all go through. Just keep going. And you can learn from my mistakes. Here I've added this circular motion or circular stamp. Here I took it off the block so I could get a better stamp. Again, that's what I should have been doing, especially when I had all this texture. It's like I forgot everything. And here's the background. And I wasn't happy. So I walked away. So don't be afraid to leave it and come back to another day. And then I decided, you know what? I'm just going to take some white gesso and I'm going back to the white. I liked it better with the white, so I can go back to it. So another thing for you to learn, you can always apply gesso. So I'm kind of happy with it now. It's evolved as I go. And I'm just edging the page. This allows me to see it as an art journal page. Somehow this step right here always seems to put everything into focus and it lets me know, am I done, or points me to the next step, what I could do next. So the next step, I decided I wanted to add another color. So across the color wheel from the blue green is yellows and oranges. And I grab yellow oxide here. I didn't want to go with orange. That's what I typically go to, so I want to do something different. I grab that hole punch stencil and I'm just stenciling this yellow oxide in. This is adding brightness to the page and it did make me happy. It was like a little ray of sunshine in the midst. So it's covering up the white, some of the white space, but the white space is still there. And I just keep I'm liking it so much, I just keep going and I, end up with it all over, but I'm loving the look. And for the first time, I'm really happy with the background that has now evolved. I grabbed this crosshatch stamp from the Stamperia collection, and I'm just adding a little bit. This is pushing back some of the yellow oxide, just adding a little bit more grunge. So right now, when you look at it, you don't see the ripped paper. It doesn't just look like that. But from that very beginning of the collage paper, it has evolved. I wanted to add a stylistic element to this, so I grabbed my a template here, and I'm just using my Inktense pencil, and I'm going to activate that. I'm using the Inktense pencil instead of Stabilo because once it's activated and dry, it's permanent. I don't have to worry when I glue something on top of it that it's going to smear. And you do have to be cautious if you're using Stabilo. This I put in the wrong place, so I just wipe it off and put it a little bit closer, get a different curve pattern. I want to do this to set off my focal image. But you can see by my attempts of doing something more than one time, revisiting it, that I am struggling. It's not a smooth thing, but just keep going. This is my Winged Wonders sentiment pack. It's a digital sentiment pack that you can purchase from Ninny's Napkins. And if you love things that have wings, butterflies, dragonflies, fairies, angels, it has tons of inspirational quotes that you can print out and change the size. So I have this dragonfly that was in my stash, so I'm going to use it. I've cut the sentiment, wings to fly, determination to soar, because I was determined to get this done. So now I'm just gluing all these down with my fluid matte medium. And because I use that Inktense pencil there instead of the Stabilo, I can just go over this and it's not reactivating. If you use the Stabilo pencil for that, you will have to be careful so you don't reactivate it. Maybe use a spray fixative. So I'm putting some of the matte medium on top just to seal the plain copy paper that is. Now, as soon as I glue this down, I am unhappy with the placement. So here's again, you can learn. My dragonfly should be a little bit more centered on that design element, that swirl that I put through the middle. I kind of offset it off to the one side, and if I was doing it again, I'd put it a little bit more centered. Here I'm just shading around the dragonfly just to make it blend with the page. And it's working because I coated it with the matte medium. So if things aren't going well on an art journal page, just keep going. Walk away at some point in time, give it some time and distance, but come back. Try something else. You've got nothing to lose. Worst case scenario, you could put a coat of gesso on and start again. You learn something every time you create. And you know what? I still enjoyed creating, even though this page fought me along the way. I wanted to make my dragonfly iridescent, so I have this Polybond sparkling glitter, but you can buy different glitters and different iridescent mediums um, from different companies. There's so many of them, and I'm just putting a coat of this on here. It goes on a bit cloudy, it dries clear, but all you will see are the sparkles, which unfortunately don't show up well in any of my pictures. But in real life, my dragonfly is quite nicely iridescent. So there is the finished page. I did end up liking my background. I like the different color scheme. And you know what? I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for sticking to it and being determined to create. So there's my page using the prompt ripped. Here are some close-ups of the finished page. I hope you learn from my mistakes. Until next time, go get creative.